What's the best way the team should approach a software bug? Steve?
Oh, that's a big question. Really, I mean, if you have software people that are working on software, off in the stands and maybe applying updates as you go through the days, it really comes down to, do you have decent software control at the event? Are you running a local source code repository where you can track changes or back out changes? And it's a matter of keeping in touch with them. As much as you have mechanical and electrical in the crits, you need someone from software there as well. Not all the time, but they need to be available, and they need to be competent and comfortable with the software and understand it from end to end. If you have, say, configuration files that you may update because you want to tweak parameters for it, you want to make sure that they haven't decided that between matches was a good idea to update a config file while you weren't looking because they thought it would work better, right? So you got to keep in touch with software and just make sure that everything is how you thought it was last time it went on the field. Right, but I would suggest that if you have software people handy at the event or they're working on it, that they definitely have some sort of local source control that they can use to keep track of the changes they make through the day.
One of the quickest ways to see if it's your software versus default driver mode, I guess, is the default robot code you get from FIRST or that you can get from WPI. If you really think it's a software problem, you throw in that software or the original driver's code, and that should have the same expected effects. There's been no changes to that, so it should do exactly what you expect it to do. If you put your code back in and it starts doing the same thing again, there's something going on. It's hard to diagnose why or where sometimes. Like if you had a function where it was looking for some switch that had to always be giving a signal, and this is no longer giving a signal, and that's causing an error. It may not actually report the error, but you may not have the right error trapping for that signal not being there anymore, and that's actually causing an issue. So yeah, it's like Steve said, it's good to have the software guys keep telling everybody what's going on and what to expect. Because if they change something and it's something all of a sudden not expected, who do you talk to? It's hard to diagnose when you're not communicating.
Yeah.
How do you Go ahead, Steve.
So I was going to say that one of the best ways to head that off is not just give software the most time they can with the robot, because they always think they need the robot to start software. Give them a setup where they can write software and test things out. If it's just a board with the stereo and a speed controller and a spike, so that they can test some functionality before they even get it there. The more time they have with the software and writing software and testing that software on something that gives them a responsive output, the less likely you are to encounter bugs later on.
So how do you guys, I guess, combine your software testing and your driver training? Because it seems like that's a good opportunity to get both in. How do you guys handle that on your teams? Why don't we start with Jerry?
As far as the teams I've been on before, it's kind of it becomes a big balance between the two. And I mean, some teams, you'd be on a team that's really, really small, your driver is your programmer, so they know exactly what to expect. Other teams, you get a little bit larger, you've got a programmer trying to program real quick. The drivers, they essentially have to be in communication quite a bit. And the programmer has to tell the driver what to expect, and then the driver has to be able to, in turn, go back to the programmer and say, this is what's going on. It's kind of like a pit crew at a NASCAR event, and you've got your driver out there that knows how to drive, but your pit crew just worked on the car and changed a left wing or something like that. Sorry to give the Southern NASCAR reference there, but now I really should have my hat on. But other than that, if the driver doesn't expect the change and feels this weird wobble in the car and doesn't report it either, how does anybody know what to fix?
Yeah, so for us, it's a matter of software is there while we practice. Okay, so they're talking to the drivers. The drivers will practice for half an hour. If something's not going right, they'll talk to software if they need something adjusted. Right? Then software can go off, make some changes, we'll deploy new code, and they can keep practicing. So really, it's a combined effort. It's practicing mixed in with getting the software to a point where the drivers are comfortable with it. It's responding as it should, the buttons are acting as they should, no crazy things are happening like pistons are popping up when they press, you know, some other button. So it really is just working hand in hand with software at that point.
Steve, you mentioned continuity testing. How do you approach an electrical problem? That's for all the hard ones.
That's a broad question. So I mean, our best tool is the multimeter and the blinking lights on stuff. If your robot is enabled and you don't have solid lights on all your speed controllers, certainly, you know, we use the Victors, so I'll go by that. Right? If all the lights aren't solid, you're not getting a signal. So then it's, why aren't I getting a signal? Undoubtedly, one end is not plugged in correctly, and that's easy to do with the Victors. Or something is cut through your PWM cable. Or, you know, it could be something else. Maybe the code is not addressing that anymore. So it's really a matter of just logically going through what are the possible things that can go wrong with any one component. And that amounts to knowing the components pretty well as well. Right? How do they behave? What should I expect to see now? Is what I'm seeing expected or not? Could this possibly happen? It's really just tracing through it all and trying to figure it out. There's no one answer to this question.
Sure.
I wish there was. That'd be nice.